Alright, before we even get to this video, I do need to slap a big disclaimer out here. Not only for spoilers, but also for death and mature themes, such as blood, booze, and lovely bunches of coconuts, of course. Since you can't really talk about the class trials since those show which characters live and die. And since Danganronpa is a series that is heavily reliant on its narrative, like people who say they play the important parts of Kingdom Hearts series only have to play the mobile game, I do not blame anyone who is wanting to play these games skipping out on this video. Hell, part of the reason why I'm using Danganronpa 2 clips at this point is because the beginning of the first game has a major plot point that affects the rest of the story, and a lovely bunch of coconuts. And at this point, I'm just wasting time because I want everyone who doesn't want spoilers to click off the video. At this point, you can only blame yourselves. A few years ago, there was a series of games that came out, where you have to solve the mystery of murders and the world, where you would become an upstart person aiming to survive in the harsh world and protect those you cared about. And those games were the Ace Attorney games. Objection! Yes, one of the best series of all time in my opinion, especially what is essentially a fancy visual novel series, only without the dating aspect that seems to follow all these visual novel trends. Ace Attorney was one of my favorite series, and is still to this day. While Ace Attorney isn't perfect, and the last two entries left something to be desired, I thoroughly enjoyed all the games, the level of polish, and the interesting gameplay that stood out from other games I played at the time. Not to mention the music just rocked. And got you really pumped into the courtroom action. Of course, there's been a drought of content in the Ace Attorney in the West, and how Capcom seems to think that no one wants to play Gaikuten Saiban games because there's simply more Japanese theming going on there. Or the fact that, you know, there's some anti-Japanese rhetoric in the game. It's not like we live in a time where localization has translated much more Japanese games, or that Ace Attorney itself is a commentary on the Japanese legal system. Hell, even the fans have done a translation of the first Gaikuten Saiban game, which I also suggest you check out if you like Ace Attorney. But regardless, there was a thirst for more courtroom action, and since Capcom isn't going to provide, I have to go elsewhere. No, that's wrong! Thus, we finally get to the meat of the video, Danganronpa, a series of games and a few anime adaptations, but we'll just ignore the anime for the moment if you don't mind. This video is me discussing the issues that I have with the series, but trust me, the series is good. That is not to say that Danganronpa is a bad series. Far from it, in fact. Heck, I still have this mystical artifact in order to play the first two games on the go. That and also Daxter. I mean, it's Daxter. I love that orange little— wait a minute. Crash is orange to it! Whoa! God! Honestly, this video may come off as nitpicking with what I'll bring up, but regardless, these are issues that I have with the Danganronpa series, and there's a reason why I brought up Phoenix Wright, as I may bring it up as a comparison piece to the game.
Why, hello there! Thank you all for waiting! Long time no see, guys! I am MangaKamen! I'm the headmaster of this academy!
So let's talk about the hardest thing that made me get into the games, and that would be the openings. Oh, I'm not talking about the stylistic animations and such, those are awesome. No, what I'm referring to is the openers, where everything is being set up in the games, where we meet the characters, set up the scenario, and all that jazz. Don't get me wrong, it's a necessary evil, since proper setup is what we really need, especially when we start off with a cast that is generally 15 to 20 characters. Like a Thanksgiving dinner, you think this is a bit too much, but decide to stuff your face in it anyway because it's just so good. Give me that character development! Normally in other games you start off with a limited cast and expand upon it while the game goes on. However, in Danganronpa it does the opposite. You start off with a huge cast of characters, and as the game progresses, hey, I warned you guys there'd be spoilers in this. I warned you all! Anyway, as the game progresses, the cast will be going the way of the Dodo, the Cuckoo, and the Fred, and shrink the cast down. The downside is there needs to be a lot of establishment for the characters at the beginning. The first game is probably the worst offender of this, since most of the time can be a real pain to get to the actual meat of the story or even some gameplay in the trials. You gotta meet everyone, and I mean everyone, in order to get started. And whether or not you like these characters don't matter. You gotta meet the best and the worst characters and just hope they don't die as soon as... Ugh. Thank God. Aside from the angelic bliss of a certain character you don't like dying first, it's a bit of a pain, and now we get back to Ace Attorney. In every game in that series, we start off the game with a murder, and within the first few minutes, bam, you're already in the courtroom. It gives you a running start into the game and allows you to get into the story of the case really quick, as well as get a sample of what the gameplay will be like. That isn't to say the method that Danganronpa takes is the worst route imaginable. If you can really get into the characters, we'll have the second and third game play a bit more with this, with the third giving a next to impossible platformer game to shake up the monotony. But whatevs, this is probably the least offensive aspect of the games. Most of the minigames suck, and I'm more or less talking about the ones in the class trial. Okay, there we go.
Hey, wait a minute, you cheated!
Hold on, we gotta talk about the minigames in more detail. I'm gonna be upfront about this. Some of the minigames are good, some of them aren't, so let's go in order of the game, shall we? But to be fully transparent, the non-stop debates, which are at the core of deciding what evidence to use as truth bullets to point out contradictions, and the closing arguments with their very entertaining manga panels detailing the crimes, are in of themselves very good. I wanted to get that out there so people in the comments don't get angry with, who the hell am I kidding? My ass is probably going up on a pike at the end of this. Thanks, editor! For the first game, the two minigames that I have an issue with are the Hangman's Gambit and Bullet Time Battle. With Hangman's Gambit, a lot of the time it's a tedious just waiting for the right letter, and I'm sure plenty of people have railed on and on about how some of the choices of the words can be outright weird. Like, how in the world was I supposed to get the word schizo?
Why is this gotta be so complicated?
For me, the main problem is that this minigame really interrupts the flow of the class trial most of the time and will interrupt the fast pace for this dinky little game. As for bullet time battles, I mean, while it isn't an issue with pacing like it is with Hangman's Gambit, it's more or less an issue of it being an oddity. The minigame is essentially a rhythm game, and I wouldn't have a problem with it, but for one, the music playing in it doesn't really do much for me.
Whoa, I think I just figured something out, Beavis. What? This sucks.
Like, I don't know if this is a me issue, but the music doesn't really fit, nor does it really make me want to play a minigame like this. It's like that episode of Steven Universe where Yellow has her solo-ish song with pearls, but the music is off, the singing from the pearls is off, and Yellow's voice is just...
Wow, another reference we don't get. You must be a hardcore loser.
It's that, but just a minigame. If I want to play a rhythm game, there are much better ones, and the visuals don't really help either. Again, this is the first game, so I'm going to be a little bit more lax on it, but really...
Why is this gotta be so complicated?
Now for the sequel, and probably the one with my favorite cast, but also some of the weirdest choices as well.
Avril Lavigne?
The first minigame I have an issue with is the improved Hangman's Gambit. Although I wonder if you could really call it an improvement, the issue I had with the first game's version of it is still there, where sometimes the words selected to figure out are really out there, but with the added bonus of adding a bit of a punishment if you allow two letters that aren't the same to collide. Well, I'm not against the idea of punishing. I think it's patently bullshit that sometimes the letters would collide with just spawned letters outside of the screen. What is an improvement is the panic talk action from the bullet time battles. Not only are the visuals improved, but the music is a significant improvement as well as more lively. Not only are the visuals improved, but the music is much more lively, and I can follow along with it.
Crushed as David prophesized! Show me the cadaver!
Still not something I'd really like to do with this, but something I can manage, and does follow the pace of the trials. But probably the worst is the Logic Drive game. It's not even that it's just a really poor attempt to get more action into the game, where it's a bit more frantic, but the problem is that even if you get the wrong answer, you're told the right path and the amount of damage you take to your character is paltry at best.
That's a huge jump in logic in so many ways.
So it's really handholdy in that regard. It's also a bit infuriating with the constant jumps, and that can be a real negative when trying to get new players into the game series. And finally, the third game, V3. Obviously, with it being the latest and last game in the series, it's obviously got the most polish, as well as adding much more variety to the trials to make them look better. Things like lying, scrum debates, and the mass panic debates. Hell, Hangman's Gambit is actually a little better this time around, although I still think it's a bit of a pace breaker, but I can live with that. And Psych Taxi is... well...
Yeah!
It's like Taxi.
It's so boring.
It's a much more watered-down version of the logic drives, and while I do like the visuals, it still interrupts the pacing of the trial, and what is this? Mind.
Make it stop!
I mean, it's fine, it's harmless. It's just essentially taking the mining game from Pokemon.
While the glue hammer will clear out one at a time. The goal is to get as many gems as possible without the wall collapsing upon you.
Well, fine, go ahead and sue me!
I will! I'll sue you in England! You are so sued, kid!
I know this is probably the weirdest thing I could say in this video, but I'm not a huge fan of the whole hope versus despair thing going throughout the series.
Huh? Did he really just say that?
It's a long-running narrative throughout the series, but constantly hearing characters going on and on about hope and despair as if they were to infectious diseases or crack really gets tiresome really quick. If I wanted to watch some scrawny guy talk about how he has hope, that he'll never give up and never surrender to the evil of man, the world, or etc., I'd watch Cake, did you write wrestling references in my script again? Hell, the third game even lampoons this obsession with hope and despair to the point where the characters outright reject the whole concept and just say, fuck it! It's a tired concept that only boils down to its almost good and evil aspect. I know this one's short, but really I don't have much to talk about. I know there'll be plenty of people in the comments talking about this anyway.
Well, that answers pretty much every question I had.
The ending sucks. Not only does it basically tell you that the past two games were basically nothing more than imaginary, but also affects the entire series. The games, the anime, the manga, it was all for
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
And to me, that just kind of sucks. I know this is a short video, but I don't really have a lot of complaints about the series. I genuinely like the Danganronpa games, and while the series is over now, and the series writer now working on a baseball game? What? Okay, that actually looks pretty sick. I might actually try that. And this is coming from a guy who doesn't like baseball. Back what I was saying, I legitimately love the series, and although I've got my issues with it, it filled a niche in my heart that was emptied ever since Phoenix Wright games were over with. The courtroom was always an interesting location for games, and I do hope that in the future we get more games that take advantage of this. Mystery games need to be given new life, and frankly, I hope that we get ones that are as good as Danganronpa and Ace Attorney in the future. Now I ask you guys, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. I'm MangaKamen, and remember to examine your fandom.